Now, board chairman of the Millennium Excellence Foundation, Victor Gbehu, says efforts by detractors of the foundation CEO, Ashim Morton, to paint him as a charlatan will fail. Appearing before the parliamentary committee probing the incident, he said Ashim Morton is a good man. He denied claims the foundation extorted money from expatriate business persons. Ashim Morton, in a pictorial presentation to the committee, said no one paid money to sit by President Akufo-Addo during the awards ceremony. Lawyer Charles Zuenes, Ambassador Victor Gbehu, and Ashim Morton are representing the Millennium Excellence Foundation at the Catch for Seat probing allegations, or the Catch for Seat committee probing the allegations. We cross over to Parliament for the hearing.
And met with the potential sponsors.
Can you tell this committee the form in which the benefit package that you designed went to the potential sponsors? In other words, must have been documented. Was there a package of documents? What kind of documentation accompanied the sponsorship package to the sponsors?
Thank you, Honourable Member. I have a copy of the sponsorship benefits and the floor plan that we gave to the sponsors, the potential sponsors, when we met with them. So it was the benefits plan and the layout of the Movenpick Banquet Hall.
Can you furnish us with a copy of that? I want it precisely in the form that it went out to the sponsors.
But we haven't received them. We have to receive them. Ambassador Ashim Morton, are these the only copies you have?
I have another copy.
With you now?
Yes, my lord.
Okay. I'm the chairman. I'm not the lord. We want to keep these ones as they are, and members will use them to ask questions of you as they are. But when we make photocopies, we will not get the sense that we want to have out of them. So if you have copies with you now, which you can speak to, you have some there. Okay. So, are they not the same? So the sponsorship package will be MEF 5, because we have labeled the MOU as 4. So the sponsorship package will be MEF 5. And then the document entitled Technical Bench beneath Presidential Circle will be 6. MEF 6.
Ambassador Morton, are these the only documents you served on potential sponsors?
I have a card that I also included, is what I'm looking for now. So if you could give me a moment. Sir? This one. Yeah.
Okay. Ambassador, I am going to show you a document, an exhibit that has been presented to this committee. And after you've seen it, I'll ask you a few questions about it. Are you familiar with that document?
Honorable, I am only familiar with the first page, but indeed, should I say I'm not familiar with this document at all. I can't speak to this document because I've not seen this document before. This document has been doctored.
Please, watch your language. be calm with the language. Maybe you should clarify. Have you seen this before as a document or separate documents? Maybe that is the way I should have asked the question, because you have said that you are familiar with the first page, and obviously the benefits package at the back was developed by you, so you should be familiar with the benefits. So the question is, in that form, a combined form, are you familiar with this document in its combined form?
My Lord, I have not seen this document in its combined form. In the way it's stapled with the photocopies around it, I have not seen this document before.
I'm a member of the committee. My Lord's temporal are very elevated. Now, did you administer to potential sponsors a document like this in a combined form, ever?
No, sir.
Did you administer to your potential sponsors the first page of that document, ever?
No, sir.
So please read the title of the first page.
Honorable, it reads Ghana Expatriate Business Awards, a black tie event.
And who signed the document?
Honorable, it's signed by the Deputy Minister, Honorable Carlos Kingsley Ahinkra.
And you are telling this committee that you did not send that document to any potential sponsor?
My Lord, sorry, Honorable, we were given these documents and we sent it out to the identified potential sponsors in sealed envelopes.
You were given the document signed by the Honorable Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry in sealed envelopes. And
Yes.
were you privy to the contents of the envelopes?
Honorable, yes, I was privy to the contents of the envelope.
So you can tell this committee the exact documents in the envelope?
Yes, my Lord.
Yes, sir. Please do so.
You address the chairman of the committee, so yes, Mr. Chairman, and you move on.
Can you kindly tell this committee what the exact documents in the sealed envelope were?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. There were 3 documents in that sealed envelope, 3 sheets of paper in that sealed envelope. It was the first cover sheet. It was a second sheet where he had his signature, which is this sheet here. And then there's a third sheet attached, which was a criteria. That was it, Mr. Chairman.
May I have the document back? Ambassador Ashim-Morton, did you at any point in time mention the name of His Excellency the President in seeking to raise funds?
No, my Lord.
No, Mr. Chairman.
No, Mr. Chairman.
Not even to use it as a persuasive approach to engaging the people to get interested?
Mr. Chairman, when I met the potential sponsors, I spoke to them about the event, and I mentioned to them that there was a possibility that the president may show up, but that was it.
Did you ask anybody to pay money to sit by the president?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Did you insist that anybody had to pay money before they could come to the event?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Ambassador, I'm about to come to the end of my questions. Whose idea was it to have an account in the ministry?
Mr. Chairman, it was the Minister of Trade and Industry.
And what was the stated object?
Mr. Chairman, obviously it was to ensure transparency in all the funds that we raised and accountability.
Is that what the minister said?
And further, to ensure the integrity of funds that were raised by us. And that is what the minister said.
The minister said he wanted an account in the ministry to ensure transparency and accountability and integrity of the funds raised.
The integrity of the entire process of fundraising, Mr. Chairman.
And you willingly agreed?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Would you say this particular fundraising effort was successful?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Even though you ended up seating over 322 people who didn't pay anything?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, my last question. You have told this committee that as at 4 p.m. you didn't know whether His Excellency would be coming to the event. At what point did you know he was coming?
Mr. Chairman, it wasn't the responsibility of the foundation to invite and to know that the president had confirmed his participation. But during the setup, we saw the security personnel who confirmed to us that the President of the Republic of Ghana would be coming to the event. So during the setup in the afternoon of that day.
So who is the president who was going to have dinner for two at a later date?
Mr. Chairman, as you can see on our sponsorship package, it says for any person who qualifies, and when I say qualify, pays the $100,000 US to have a seat on that table, the exclusive dinner with the president of the Millennium Excellence Foundation after the event. I would also like to add that assuming we had 10 companies or 15 companies who had paid $100,000, I would never have expected to think that the head of state, we would go and organize, or the Ministry of Trade and Industry will go and organize 10 or 15 dinners with individual people. So certainly it was with the president of the Millennium Excellence Foundation to show gratitude for their support of this initiative.
Did you ever ask the Minister of Trade that to have private dinners with your potential sponsors?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Did you clear the package with him?
Please, I don't understand the question. Which package are you referring to?
Benefits.
No, Mr. Chairman. I didn't clear with the minister.
Mr. Chairman, I'm done.
Dr. Ayine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And welcome Ambassador Victor Gbeho and Ambassador Ashimorton. By the way, how did you attain the title ambassador?
Mr. Chairman, I am the ambassador of I'm the ambassador for the Red Cross and also the ambassador for the Peace Federation.
So the Red Cross and the foundation conferred that title on you?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
When was this?
This was in 2006 that I was conferred with the Ambassador for Peace, and 2016 that I was conferred the Ambassador for the Red Cross.
Okay, thank you very much for the clarification. I would want to turn to Ambassador Victor Gbeho, and then I'll come back to you, Ashimorton, more extensively later. Ambassador Gbeho, you told this committee that you were invited to become the chairman of the foundation, the non-executive chairman of the foundation. Is that right?
No, that's not quite right. Perhaps the other thing that I should explain to you is that at the time that I was invited to become the president. However, last year, the structure of the foundation changed and I became the chairman. So it was in that sense that I was speaking. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have a record of the invitation? Were you written to?
This can be verified from the records of the foundation. It was in June 2017 that my title was changed from president to chairman.
So the initial letter inviting you, if any, or the record, was that you would be the chairman of the foundation?
No.
That you would be the president?
I will be the president. And I was the president. But now I'm no longer the president, I am the chairman, because the structure of the foundation changed.
Okay. In that capacity, and given the fact that you attended the function, I'm talking about the event, the awards event. Do you know how many people paid 100,000 to attend the event, or as a result, 100,000 US dollars to attend the event?
No, I do not.
And you haven't bothered to ask the foundation or its president about how many people paid the 100,000?
At the time that I attended the event, I did not know how many people paid 100,000, if indeed anybody paid at all.
Thank you. That will be all for you, Ambassador. Now, to the president of the foundation. You have stated here that you are a company limited by guarantee. Is that right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And are you registered in Ghana as a company limited by guarantee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have your company registration documents?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We can furnish you with those documents at a later date.
That will be. How soon can we get them? I mean, usually the regulations are not, they are not a bulky document. I'm sure your counsel will confirm. So can you give them to us today? The certificate to commence business, the registration, and everything today. Is that possible?
We can try. Yes, Mr. Chairman, yes.
All right. I like the fact that you can try. Right. Who are the subscribers to your regulations? And counsel, you can't speak directly to the mic because you've not been sworn in, so you advise him and let him talk to us. That is how we operate. Unless it's a legal point that you are raising, you don't talk directly to the committee because of your capacity.
Speaking as counsel, evidence giver.
Then go ahead.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm speaking as counsel at this stage, and I want to draw reference to the fact that we are here prepared to give you all the support and cooperation that we can to do with your terms of reference in this fact-finding mission. And we came very prepared, as you can see, to clarify all the uncertainty around cash for seats at our event and around the questions of ethics pertaining thereto. That is what we're here prepared to answer and to help with. We're not here prepared for going through registration documents, which I assure you are all very much in order. And I don't think it would be fair on my clients to be put through this, at least today, with respect to this committee.
Thank you, Counsel, for that answer. But if you look at our terms of reference, it says "and related matters." And related matters.
Relevant related matters, I presume, sir.
Yes, that is true. And Counsel, if you will me, you'll understand why I'm building my case starting with the registration. Is that okay?
It's okay to build your case, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. The Ministry of Trade and Industry described your organization as a commercial operator deserving of a fair return on your on the event. Is that a fair description of the organization? And Counsel, do you now see the relevance of my building the case?
I wonder whether Mr. Chairman really wants me to answer that.
I just told him that I shouldn't draw you into the matter.
I think the honourable member is yielding to his profession as counsel, but I would like my client to answer directly.
Yeah, please. Are you you want me to repeat the question?
Minimum Excellence Foundation is limited by guarantee company. And that's it.
Okay, so you are a company limited by guarantee.
That's correct.
Okay, and I want to know whether your objects permit you to engage in commercial transactions.
No, my lord. No, Mr. Chairman.
So it will not be accurate for the ministry to describe you as a commercial operator in the private sector. Is that right?
Mr. Chairman, in my capacity,
did you spend any money independently on organizing this event?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
If we may know how much you spent.
Mr. Chairman, if I may recall, we spent about 40,000 CDs.
40,000 CDs. Do you remember what you spent it on?
Mr. Chairman, the foundation has a staff. We have our bills. We have stationery and other things that the foundation sustains itself by. So that's what we use the funds for.
Well, basically, you spend it on overheads, the overheads of the
overheads
foundation.
And preparation towards the launching of the Ghana Expatriate Business Awards. Thank you.
Okay. And how much were you given by the ministry after the event? How much money have you received so far from the ministry after the event?
When you say how much has the foundation received after the event, I can't really answer that question now. I can tell you how much we received in total.
That's precisely what I want to know.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, the foundation has received in total 2,367,426.06. This is what we have received from the Ministry of Trade in total. And the 40,000 CDs that we received from the Ministry of Trade and Industry was paid back out of the funds.
Okay, so you spent 40,000 Ghana cedis and you were paid 2.3 million Ghana cedis, right?
Mm-mm. We were paid 40,000 cedis less. So the totality. That's correct. Yeah. Mr. Chairman, the 40,000 CDs was part of the expenditure towards this initiative. But what I'm saying is that in total, we received 2.367426.06 from the Ministry of Trade and Industry.
Okay. Now, you have told this committee that the minister requested and your foundation accepted that all funds raised be lodged in an account of the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Is that true? Is that correct?
That is correct.
The reason you've told us is to ensure accountability, integrity, and transparency.
That's correct.
Was there an issue of trust from the beginning when you started this relationship with the ministry?
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
Are you willing and able to provide the committee with a bank statement covering the period from the time that you started a relationship with the committee, with the ministry, up to the present?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think this is relevant, and we are not prepared to do so.
As you see from the terms of reference of the committee, we are to investigate into this matter, and monies were given to you, which you have admitted you received, and I suppose you lodge those monies into the foundation's account, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And you don't think that it is relevant for this committee to be able to verify, whether or not those monies were actually properly received and lodged into the accounts of the of the foundation?
Mr. Chairman, again, I fail to see the relevance of the internal accounts, bank accounts of the foundation to this particular inquiry, which I have said already, my clients are here fully willing to cooperate with. But this is about allegations relating to cash for seats allegations related to the ethics of whether or not my clients had anything to do with receiving and extorting money in exchange for granting or enabling access to the head of state. That is the scope and ambit that we are here to cooperate with, and any related matter. But the related matter, I must say, has to be relevant to the scope and ambit of your investigation. We're not here today prepared to bring out our bank accounts and bank statements.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to rule on this objection? Because I'm not going to give up on it at all. So if Chairman will rule on it, I will proceed.
Counsel for the Foundation has made a response. If you have anything to say in response to that, what the counsel said.
Mr. Chairman, may I just point out that we have already very clearly demonstrated that this foundation embarks on a very wide and extensive number of initiatives, very far and beyond the Ghana Expert Business Awards. It is also the recipient of funds received from charitable gestures from many people who are related to the foundation far beyond the scope of the Ghana Expert Business Awards. There are confidentiality issues related to disclosing matters from our finance records which would necessarily point to persons who would prefer to keep their anonymity. So we can't supply you with bank statements or records.
Mr. Chairman, you asked me to respond to the objection raised by counsel. Counsel, if you would look at the terms of reference, I don't know whether you have a copy of our terms of reference.
I have a copy, Mr. Chairman, but I'll be gladdened if you could take me through the portions that you're referring and resting on.
Thank you very much. If you would kindly look at terms of reference number 2, numbered 2.
Could we just have a quick reading of that?
Why not? It says to inquire whether any payments were made and received, and if so, how disbursement was effected, and whether any disbursement offended the law. That is what the Speaker of Parliament wants us to inquire into. So monies were received, they were lodged into the Ministry of Trade account, all right? They were disbursed to your client and, received by your client. And I want evidence of the receipt of those funds by your client. That is the evidence. Just asserting here that you received X amount of money is not sufficient proof of the fact that you received them as a foundation. So if we can have the evidence of the lodgement of the check and the fact that the check cleared in the name of the foundation and so on, that will be material.
Mr. Chairman, my understanding of what you've just read pertaining to payments being made naturally, obviously, pertains to payments which were made at room 308 at the Ministry of Trade and Industry into the Ministry of Trade and Industry's account. The collections that the scope and ambit of your investigative inquiry relates to are the collections, or so put as collections, to that account. That is what we've all been here about. Now, we don't have the statements of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, And I dare say that if Mr. Chairman wished to have looked into that part, then the missed opportunity has already arisen because the Ministry of Trade and Industry were here last week, as I understand. So we don't have the pertinent, relevant information that you seem to be now belatedly seeking, with the greatest of respect.
Council, this is not a belated attempt to seek information. Definitely we had an order or priority in terms of witnesses that wanted to call, all right? And your client is the third witness in that order of priority. So it's not a late inquiry. And in any case, your client has a duty either to deny or confirm what has been said by the ministry. Mind you, there is an MOU, and I'll come to that. In that MOU, there's nothing about confidentiality. And I don't know whether you drafted it or your client drafted it and gave it to the ministry. There's nothing about confidentiality of transactions. So if you are minded to keep these matters confidential, it should have been written into the MOU. So I insist that we need to have evidence of payments of the monies received into the bank account of your client, okay? And even if you don't want to give us the, bank statement so that issues of confidentiality arise because others have given you money and so on, we are entitled, because these monies came out of a public account of the Republic, we are entitled, to know where the money went.
I think maybe the last response you give, and then
Yes, thank you.
The committee will take a decision.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, yet again, I must say most firmly that the payments received that the terms of reference refers to are the payments received into the account of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, which is what caused the arisal of the complaint being made that has formed the basis of this inquiry. It says so very clearly. Alleged levy, investigate the alleged levy and collection of sums of money by the Ministry of Trade and Industry from expatriate businesses. So you with the greatest of respect, you can only rely on the general clause and related matters. You can only rely on it with relevance to the receiving of money by the Ministry of Trade and Industry. I don't believe this was intended to be a fishing expedition. I don't believe it was. You have your parameters. We're here to help, but we are not able to go down an interminable forest search, with the greatest of respect.
Council, that is an interesting response. But, Mr. Chairman, I think we'll make progress. Don't worry, Mr. Or you want to rule on? Yeah.
May I just say that if you wished to find out the specific dates of when the Ministry of Trade and Industry paid my client from its account, I'll allow that my client supplies you with those specific dates of when the Ministry of Trade and Industry paid my client, disclosing the amounts that were paid, the dates they were paid, and then you'd be able to see the full number of payments that made up to the total that they received. I think to that extent, we can certainly indulge the committee. Thank you.
Final take on this one? No. Yeah. Mr. Morton, you have told the committee that the whole idea of lodging into the account was to ensure integrity and accountability. All right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yeah.
Okay. Has there been an audit of the accounts?
Mr. Chairman, not yet.
Okay, that is fine. You are sure that there has not been an audit?
Mr. Chairman, for the foundation, not yet.
Will you be surprised if I told you that in its evidence before this committee, the ministry has said that there has been an audit of the accounts?
Maybe an audit of the event, but not of the foundation's account.
I'm not saying the foundation's account. The account into which you lodge monies that you received, because obviously you took the sponsorship package to the businesses. You directed the businesses to pay to Martin Ayamga in room 308, right?
Mr. Chairman, it was part of our MOU for them to do an audit.
Okay, that is fine. Who gave Martin Ayamga's details to you? Do you remember the name Martin Ayamga, room 308?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. When you say who gave Martin Ayamga's information to me, I want to understand what you mean by that.
That's just what I want to from you. Who gave the information to you? Ayamga's details, his full name, his office, number, and so on. Who gave those details to you?
Mr. Chairman, at one of the meetings that we had at the Ministry of Trade and Industry during the planning of this event, we were given that information that all payments should be lodged in room 308 addressed to Martin Ayamga.
Okay. Now let us turn to the Memorandum of Understanding, which is MEF 4. Exhibit MEF 4.
You're watching the Joy News channel. I'm Bernice Abu-Beidu. That'll be all by way of Joy News today. And we'll take you back to Parliament. Currently, Dominic Ayine, a member of the committee probing the cash for seat allegation, is questioning Ashim Morton, founder of the Millennium Excellence Foundation, on monies that were received on their behalf by the Trades Ministry. Many thanks for your company. We'll take you back to Parliament.
Drafted and you went and everyone appended their signatures immediately? In other words, was it discussed?
Mr. Chairman, yes, the MOU was discussed with the Ministry of Trade and Industry.
Now, if you look at that MOU, there was an obligation on the part of the ministry to ensure the attendance of the President and senior ministers of state. Is that right?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
And you can confirm that that obligation was fulfilled. In other words, the ministry discharged its responsibility.
Mr. Chairman, to the extent of what I know in the MOU, they did their part.
Okay, thank you. Now, you've told this committee that you met with the sponsors or the potential sponsors. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
How many of them did you meet?
Mr. Chairman, I met at least about 80 to 85 potential sponsors.
And you have also said that at some of the meetings, or maybe all of the meetings, you mentioned the fact that His Excellency the President would be at this function, or maybe at this function.
Mr. Mr. Chairman, I did not mention to all of the potential sponsors that the head of state will be. I said maybe coming to the. He has been invited, but it wasn't within our scope, so I couldn't confirm to them that the head of state will be there.
Okay. Now, under the MOU also, you had the responsibility or the obligation to design the sponsorship package, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
When did you present the sponsorship package to the technical or planning committee?
Mr. Chairman, we designed the sponsorship package and we met our potential sponsors with that package. So it was our responsibility to design that package. We did not discuss it with the ministry.
Did you ever mention it to any official at the ministry, either the deputy minister, the minister himself, a member of the technical committee who's a public officer, and so on? Did you ever do that?
Mr. Chairman, no.
Very interesting. So the team did not make any input whatsoever. The technical team did not make any input whatsoever into the sponsorship package.
Mr. Chairman, the planning committee did not participate in the design of the benefits package. We've been doing this for the past 2 decades, so we don't need the planning committee or anybody from the ministry to be helping us to design this package.
But you would agree with me that this was a novelty, as you know, the ministry itself has said to the Ghanaian people that this was a novelty. It is unlike other events that have been organized. Is that true?
This novelty was only to the extent of thanking the expatriates, yes, but not the design of the sponsorship package.
So in the past, did you ever collaborate with any public agency in the manner in which you did with the Ministry of Trade?
Mr. Chairman, no.
So in that sense, it's a novelty, right?
What is the novelty here, Mr. Chairman?
It is a duty of the committee to ask questions with all due respect. So it is your duty to answer the questions. All right. So I'm going to repeat the question, which is that, you know, in terms of the nature of the collaboration, the MOU, the payment into the account, monies into the account of the ministry and so on, right? This is the first time you are doing that. So it's a novelty.
I would say so.
So you would agree with me that if there was ever a presidential table in the past, there would not be issues of payment of money, right?
Mr. Chairman, I don't understand your question at all.
In other words, did we ever have, you know, when you showed us all the awards and so on, some have been organized in Ghana, others in Kenya and Nigeria and so forth, right? Let's limit ourselves to Ghana. Have you ever organized an event in Ghana, right, where there's a sponsorship package requiring anybody to pay money, right, that reflects the seating arrangement of the event?
Again, I don't understand what you're, with all due respect, Mr. Chairman. Companies that sponsor in all our events, they sponsor based on the benefits package we give them. So if you sponsor a certain limit, you would get a certain benefit, if that is what you're driving at.
Okay, let me give you a more specific example, right? You organized an awards event in 1999, and you showed us a picture of His Excellency President Rawlings, and then there was a table which you labeled as the gold table, right? In other words, can I learn? If there was a gold table, I suppose there was probably either a diamond or platinum or silver table and so on, right? Were your sponsorship packages designed in such a way that they reflected where a person sat, in relation to the money that was paid? That's the point that I'm making. So the President Rawlings gold table, presidential table, did anybody pay money, to attend that event and sit, close to or however far away from the president?
Mr. Chairman, point of correction. There was never a President Rawlings gold table. And
can we have the slides, TV? Can you give us the slides of? Yes, when you can I have the one that they?
Mr. Chairman, this one?
Yes, Ashimorton, Ms. Ashimorton. We have here the presidential gold table. You presented it this morning. This is the first time that I saw it. You said the presidential gold table, right? And I can see the table has, I don't know whether it's XO and water and so on, XO, whatever, I mean drinks. So I presume that it was the table on which, the president and the invited guests sat, during that event. And you described it as presidential gold table. So I was assuming that President Rawlings also had a gold table, because you described it here. It's not me. I'm not the one who did this.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know where you're alluding to. President Rawlings did not have a gold table. There was a presidential table there, which is the presidential gold table, at which he sat. That is where he sat.
So there was, I'm sorry, I didn't attend Achimota. I went to a village school called Notre Dame. So maybe my English is not that good. But basically what I was driving at was this picture where you described the presidential gold table. And I assumed that President Rawlings sat at this table with you, okay, in 1999. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Now, did you have a sponsorship package for this event?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Who sponsored it?
I didn't come here today prepared to present that information to you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, we didn't coax you to give us this exhibit. You did, right? You laid the basis. You wanted to establish the track record and integrity of your organization by showing us all these pictures of the stuff that you've done in the past. Okay, so I mean, it is. I'm sure Council will agree that since you have given us the evidence, all right, in chief, we are allowed to ask you questions on what you have presented this morning, or are we not?
Mr. Chairman, you are certainly allowed to ask my client questions. I think what my client is trying to say is that he's more than happy to explain to you the modus operandi of the hosting of those events and the fact that they always have packages. However, you have drawn his attention to an event, Millennium Excellence Awards event, which occurred in the year 1999, crossing over to the year 2000. That is 17 years plus ago. So although he would be able to tell you that 17 years ago, when the function was held, they did indeed have an attached benefits package, it would be unfair to expect him to recollect the precise combination and that the foundation had 17 years ago. I think that's all he's saying, Mr. Chairman, and I think it's fair.
Oh, thank you very much, Counsel. You know, but I mean, a Columbia-trained architect. I mean, he should have, you know, a very retentive memory.
He doesn't have the memory of an elephant, Mr. Chairman.
That's very interesting. Given that this is an elephant government that you know is involved, you know, but
we're not here about effigies, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. If you take a look at clause 1.8, Roman 4 of the MOU.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Basically, what it says is that the audit firm, and that is KPMG, would oversee the nomination process and then defer results to MOTI. What does that mean? Defer the results to MOTI. What does that mean?
Mr. Chairman, what that exactly means is that once the final results of the winners are determined, KPMG would make the results available to the Ministry of Trade and Industry.
Is that what is meant by defer?
Mr. Chairman, yes.
Well, that's a very strange use of the word defer, but I'm sure we'll leave that to the committee. Were there any subcontractors that you hired in this matter?
Mr. Chairman, yes.
How many subcontractors were hired?
Mr. Chairman, I did not come prepared to give you that answer. But
Approximately how many?
We hired about 7 subcontractors.
Okay, and how were they procured? Was the ministry involved in the procurement of the services of these subcontractors in any way? You know, the technical committee, the planning committee, were they involved? Did they know who these subcontractors were?
Mr. Chairman, the foundation outsourced the procurement of these subcontractors to the foundation and not to the ministry.
The foundation outsourced it to the foundation. Is that not contradictory?
Mr. Chairman, we engaged the services of the contractors. We, the foundation, we engaged the services of the contractors.
And then there's also an obligation to produce a project report, and then another one, a report of the entire process. Do you have that report available? Is it ready?
Mr. Chairman, it's not ready yet.
When is it going to be ready?
Mr. Chairman, are you... sorry. We have not done that report yet. That report will be done in due course.
Yeah, can you estimate when it will be ready? Because if it is a report of the entire process, it will certainly be a relevant document, right, to this committee's findings, because you are auditing, you are preparing a report of what transpired, right?
I would imagine that the report could be ready in about a month's time.
Okay. Is it possible to speed it up? Because we will be, submitting our report on the 24th. Is it possible that you could speed it up in order to get us your report?
Mr. Chairman, that project report is the reason why we're here. Whatever we are telling you is the project report. And that is what will be inside that report. So if you want that report sped up, we will try and get that report to you. But it is what we are telling you.
It cannot just be your response to the terms, to this inquiry. I'm sure you have, agreed with the ministry and or its technical team the scope and content of the report that you will be writing, to the ministry, because the ministry is your partner, right, in this project. So you would have written a report to the ministry, signed by you, any other officer of your foundation. Okay, so can we have that report? Can you help the committee by writing a report that is not intended to respond to our questions, but that would ordinarily have been submitted to the ministry? Is that okay?
Mr. Chairman, definitely we can do that for you.
Now, can you take a look again at MEF 4? That is the Memorandum of Understanding. So it has 6 pages. It has 6 pages.
Mr. Chairman, it has 7 pages, which includes the cover sheet.
Okay, that's fine. Now go to the last page. Yes, that last page is where you call it the signature or execution page. Now, what explains the gap of a quarter page between the signatures, between the the in witness whereof and the previous page? What explains the gap?
Mr. Chairman, if you look at page 6, you find that the 2 signatories, or the 2 parties, 2 contracting parties, have signed on that page, on that same page. We wanted to make sure that the same page had the 2 contracting parties on that page. So we didn't want one page to have a signatory from the Ministry of Trade and another page of the foundation. We wanted both pages to, the same page, be on the same page. Yeah.
That's okay, but I'm saying, supposing you were even to do that, these words could have been shifted upwards, right, to begin on the next page. If you are typing it on a computer, they will begin on the next page, and this gap that we are seeing here would not exist. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, I do not know what you're driving at, but this is the way we produce this MOU.
What it appears to me, okay, and this is just my personal, what it appears to me is that this was photocopied and attached to the content. Is that correct?
Explain.
Please explain, Mr. Chairman. I don't understand at all what you're saying.
What you're suggesting.
Or what you're suggesting.
I'm suggesting that if you were to type this on a computer, right, and you transition from page 5 to page 6, the words beginning in witness whereof would have been up here, right, and it would have still provided you even more ample space to sign. Okay, so what explains the gap here? What explains the gap?
Mr. Chairman, that was your last question. That was the question before your current question. And my client already answered that, or tried to answer it to your satisfaction. Now, your current question is the one that he needs explanation on.
So I assume that this was done with the same computer or laptop. Is that right?
Mr. Chairman, that's correct.
So I'm saying that if you typed in Word and you got to page 5 and there wasn't enough space for you to fit in the signatures, right, the execution page, and you were to shift to page 6, the words "in witness whereof" would begin much higher up here, just like you have on page 5, okay? You see the difference?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I see that.
You do see the difference? Okay,
yes.
Good. So I'm suggesting to you, okay, that okay, I'm not suggesting to you. I'm trying to understand, right? I'm trying to understand what accounts for this gap here. You know, I'm trying to understand what, you know, from a technical point of view, what accounts for the gap of a quarter page.
Mr. Chairman, nothing particularly. This is how the MOU was designed. Nothing particularly. It was printed.
Okay, thank you very much. If you can then look at the signatures, right? You have the signature of the Honorable Carlos Ahinkra, Deputy Trade Minister, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
It's witnessed by Boachi Boateng Prince, Team Leader, Communication and Advocacy, Minister of Trade and Industry. Is that right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so now let's go to the foundation's portion. I assume that that is your signature down there.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And you are described here as President of the foundation. Your title is President of the foundation.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Now, who is the other Morton who has witnessed your signature?
Mr. Chairman, that's my wife.
Okay. What is it? The first name is not
Catherine Morton. Catherine Morton.
Catherine.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And is she an officer of the foundation?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that's fine. Now let's go back to Mr. Chairman. I'll be done soon. Okay. Yes, you did write on April 6 to the Ministry of Trade.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. The ministry submitted that letter to us in evidence. And I would want you to see two documents that the ministry brought.
Okay,
right?
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So, clerk. So, show him. Okay, you have both documents.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Now let me explain why you have two versions of the same letter. Okay. The minister submitted the one that has MEF original letter to Moti.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
In the big pen, inscription. Have you seen that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And the minister was asked where the original is, because as a matter of practice and convention in ministries and agencies, when a letter is received, it is stamped as received, and usually the receiving officer, if the receiving officer is the minister, he would minute to the responsible officer to act on. So we didn't see the minute, we didn't see the stamp, and we asked for the original, right? So this was already in evidence. The one that has, MEF original letter to Moti, it was already in evidence. When the one that is the original was brought, okay? Now, can you look at the left-hand corner of the one that has MEF original letter to Moti?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Now, can you read out, leave out the Royal Majesty, but Ambassador Victor Gbeho, what title is he? What title has he got?
Mr. Chairman, it says chairman.
A chairman,
yeah.
Right? And then Ambassador Ashim-Morton is what?
Mr. Chairman, it says president.
Okay, good. Now, the letters were dated the same day, right? That is April 6, 2017. Okay, and the content is the same. So now look at the original. All right? Look at it. You see that?
Yes,
the left-hand right corner, the same. Yes. Ambassador Victor Gbeho is what?
President.
President.
Yes.
So this time around, he's president and not chairman.
That's
right?
correct.
Okay, and then, Ambassador Ashim-Morton is founder and chairman. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't need an explanation. Let the committee draw its own inference on the differences.
No, Mr. Chairman, I would like to explain why. Because if you leave it hanging, it has doubts.
No problem. This is a fact-finding inquiry,
sure,
so you can go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if you go to the MOU and you look at the date of the MOU signed, the date of the MOU is 5th July 2017, and I signed as president of the foundation. If you look at the MOU, page 6, I signed as the president of the foundation on that day. If you look in the brochure that we produced, which is public, is a public document, it shows Ambassador Victor Gbeho as chairman. It shows me as president. And then if you go to the letter, original letter that we sent to the ministry, it shows me as chairman. Ambassador Victor Gbeho was made chairman in June 2017. Ambassador Victor Gbeho was made chairman in June 2017. That is the structure he was talking to you about. And so all documents from June 2017, I was the president. Ambassador Victor Gbeho was the chairman. And that explains the discrepancy of the different titles that you see. Now, when I was asked last week, I was called and I was told that they were looking for a copy of this letter, which is the original letter. Me knowing what is going on, I quickly took my letterhead, my current letterhead, and I printed the document, signed as president. I have 2 original letterheads here, which I want to show you. One shows Ambassador Victor Gbeho as chairman. There's an old letterhead. is a recent one, and him being president, which is the previous letterhead. So I'd like you to take a look at it. These are two original documents. Ambassador Victor Gbeho was made chairman in June 2017. All documents preceding that addressed Ambassador Victor Gbeho as president. Indeed, the brochure, I've even shown the brochure. Indeed, the program menu also shows Ambassador Victor Gbeho as chairman of the foundation. So it's all in here, it's all public information. I'll go further. When we requested for a meeting on the president, Ambassador Victor Gbeho signed the letter as president. The response that we got from the presidency, I have a copy here, granting us a meeting with the head of state. That letter referred to Ambassador Victor Gbeho as president. Ambassador Victor Gbeho was made the chairman of the foundation in June 2017. So that explains the discrepancy.
Are you done with the explanation?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, go back to MEF1. MEF1. That is Exhibit 1 of the documents that you attach to your that your counsel attached to his letter transmitting the documents to us. That is the same 6 April 2017 letter, right?
That's correct.
And this time, what explains the left corner is entirely blank. It's entirely blank. There's nothing there.
Yes.
What explains that?
They asked me for a copy. So
Yes.
I sent a copy. I just printed a copy of the letter from my computer and submitted it.
No, but
I know, Mr. Chairman, I know what you're coming to show me.
What he's coming to show you?
Yeah, that's what he says, entirely blank.
you is a letter that your counsel attached to his letter transmitting the documents to us. Okay, we received this on Monday. Was it Clark? Tuesday? On Tuesday, right? And it's written here, copy. It's written here, copy. But the left-hand side that has a description of your positions and the laureates and so on is completely blank. And I'm asking what accounts for this? Because, this is just an A4 sheet. If you place it on a photocopier, you should be able to capture everything. So if this was an original letter you were photocopying, then definitely the left-hand side, should have contained the same information as the one that you have just been shown. So what accounts for this?
If I may have a look at that document. But I do have an explanation. Mr. Chairman, I have an explanation to your inquiry, your question. The foundation has... Hello? Yes. I'm sorry. Okay. I should hold that. Okay. Mr. Chairman, the foundation has other initiatives that do not necessarily have the laureates and recipients on it. We have a blank letterhead. We have a blank letterhead without the laureates on it as well. We have a letterhead without laureates on it, a blank letterhead.
Have a letterhead with laureates.
And we have another letterhead with laureates on it.
Okay. Is that what explains the signature at the back? That this time around is different, but the content is the same. You know, look at the signatures. Look at the yeah. Okay. So give him these two.
Mr. Chairman, this letter here, that says copy, with the signature in the back, this is not my signature.
This is serious because this was transmitted by your good self to the committee, and it formed part of the, a complement of documents that you sent to us. I'm sure the chairman can confirm that this is what we received.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know where the idea is gotten from that me or my chambers sent you documents. We did not send you documents. My client, the foundation, sent you documents. What we did was we wrote to you on the 9th of January informing you that we've been instructed by the foundation as solicitors and that we were going to see to it that they acceded to your request for documents relevant to the transaction to be provided. And that is what our letter said. I'm looking for it. But I believe that is with you. I said my clients will furnish you with those documents, and they so did within the time frame that you asked for them to be given to you by. Okay. And then we undertook to attend and provide every assistance as well in our letter. So I didn't, just as a point of correction, send anything.
Then our secretariat misled us with respect because they gave us your letter and attached all the documents that your clients made available to us. So we presumed that you had seen the documents of your client before transmitting them to us. I didn't know that they were given, they were given to us separately. Your letter, yes, as well as, their documents. Okay, but I'm sure, yeah.
What really happened, we received the letter from council ahead of the transmittal of other documents. So those other documents that came had a covering letter, which is signed by the president of the foundation, and that is what we have labeled MEF2. That was a transmittal letter, and it's titled Real Request to Furnish Documentation and Invitation to Attend Upon Special Committee. So kindly find enclosed the relevant documentation that you requested, and hereby assures you of its commitment towards lending your fact-finding committee full cooperation. So there were two letters, one from council. It didn't come accompanied with the documents, but later the foundation brought a second letter with the attachments.
All right, so I apologize. I apologize to council, for that inference. I think the secretariat should have briefed us that this is what happened. Yeah. But the chairman has clarified the situation.
So what we have asked the clerk to do is to bring the copy that was brought. If it is the photocopying that has created the problem, we'll get to know. So the copy that was brought from the foundation, she's going to bring it from her office.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So, Mr. Ashimorton, can you confirm how many people paid $100,000 US who, attended or didn't attend or were invited to this function?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to say that before the event, no one individual paid $100,000. I also heard the Honorable Samuel Ablakwa Kujeto mention that he has facts that 3 companies paid $100,000 before the event. He mentioned Dream Realty, he mentioned Interplast, and he mentioned Innisfly. Mr. Chairman, those 3 companies belong to one person. So I think the inference was that we had received at least $300,000. I'd like to say that no company paid $100,000 before the event. If $100,000 was paid towards this event, it didn't happen before December 4th. Rather, 2 companies paid an ex gratia towards the hosting of this program to support us, and they said this is a well-standard organization. And so, to answer your question, Mr. Chairman, not one company paid $100,000. And I also want to mention something to you, Mr. Chairman. When we were doing our fundraising initiative, I was cautioned by the Minister of Trade and Industry not to sell seats for that table. We did not sell seats for that table. I want to clarify, if you look on the sponsorship package, if you can refer back to the sponsorship package I gave to you. If you paid $100,000 before the event, you would receive several benefits, one of which you would get a seat on anywhere on the gold table, gold presidential table. It says gold president's table. If you paid $100,000, one of the benefits would be to get a seat on that gold table. And that gold table that you're seated on doesn't necessarily, we didn't say that you were going to sit next to the head of state. It could be anywhere. And so if you saw the people who sat on that table, there were companies that were seated from left to right, not necessarily knowing how much they were worth, but it was the foundation who invited them to that table. And on that table, we said they would, if you paid $100,000, you would get a table for 10, exclusive table for 10. In my demonstration, there was no exclusive table for 10. It would also say that you would get a business class return ticket for your chairman or whoever, since it's an expatriate company. If you have a chairman out there, we would buy 2 business class tickets, return business class tickets for that person to participate in the program. In addition to that, it says you would have an exclusive dinner for 2 with the president, at a private venue. Those people who would pay $100,000 to come to Ghana, return ticket, I was obliged to have dinner with them. And I'm talking about the president of the foundation. We did not have that dinner. In addition to the $100,000, if anybody paid, was a speaking opportunity for that company on stage. No company had the chairman or the CEO speak on stage on that day. In addition to that, we said, if you paid $100,000, we would provide you with an executive accommodation for 2 at Movenpick. We did not do that because nobody paid $100,000. I'm going through this carefully to erase that thought that people paid $100,000 to sit next to the head of state. Then he also went on to say that you would have a special corporate profile pullout in a daily graphic. We haven't given any company that corporate pullout. He went on to say you'd have branding at cocktail before the dinner awards. That was not done for any company. It also went on to say that there'll be an invitation for that chairman to present one of the top awards on stage. No chairman was called up on stage to make a presentation. Also, for $100,000, you would get one full color advert insertion in the event brochure. That did not happen. It went on to say you have 2 pages corporate write-up insertion in the event brochure. No company got that benefit. It says you'd get 10 complimentary copies of the event brochure. That was not, we did not print a hard copy of the event brochure for any company. And then it said you'd have special breakfast for 6 at the Movenpick. I'm saying this carefully to erase that notion that anybody paid $100,000 to be on any part of that table. I'll repeat myself again. No company paid $100,000 to sit on that table before the event. And indeed, there's also an assertion in the public that says that my good friend, Saeed Fakhri, paid $100,000 to sit next to the head of state. I know that Saeed Fakhri is a good friend of the foundation. I know Saeed Fakhri has a good relationship with some of the projects that we've hosted in the past. Saeed Fakhri was placed there to sit next to me if the president had not shown up. We had to play that option in case the head of state was not there. And that's what I explained up on this illustration. Indeed, when we realized that the head of state was coming, I wasn't about to go and move Saeed Fakhri from where he was seated. There were a lot of people there. We're not going to start moving people up and down on that table. It was a very fluid process. And again, I've said all this to confirm that no company paid $100,000 for this event before the program. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I would also like to say one thing. When I met my potential sponsors, the benefits package that I gave them was in color. All the benefits package that we produced was in color. And in addition to that, the seating arrangements was also in color. And for them to see that if you paid for the presidential table, you will see where you'll be seated in the presidential square. If you paid for the red seating, you also see where you'll be seated. And so the potential sponsors would have this in color. That is how we do all our fundraising. We let our potential sponsors know where they'll be seated. And that explains why our sponsorship package went out in color. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. So presidential table was a reference to president of the foundation, not president of the republic. Is that what you are saying?
Mr. Chairman, please rephrase your question. I don't understand what you're saying.
I said presidential table was a reference to president of the foundation and not president of the republic. Is that right?
Mr. Chairman, yes.
Okay. And there was something that was described as the ministerial circle. Are you aware of that?
Mr. Chairman, please hold on. Mr. Chairman, if you have a document with you that says ministerial circle, may I kindly have it?
Okay. In what was submitted to us earlier, dedicated for ministerial VVIP table that was submitted to us. I'm referring to OK1.
Mr. Chairman, can I see that document, please?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see that document you're referring to.
Do you have anything to say?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, my client has something to say about what you've just shown to him.
Yes.
I think he's best placed to respond to it himself.
Mr. Chairman, I'm deeply disturbed by what I'm looking at. I am very deeply disturbed on the thinking of the personality who would fabricate this sort of and change our sponsorship package and put ministerial there. This document is foreign. This document is foreign to the foundation. I've never seen this document before. As I mentioned earlier on, all our sponsorship packages were in color. And if you look at the font has changed.
Only on that line.
Only on this line, the font has changed. So I will leave that to Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you very much for that explanation. Can I have the document back?
Mr. Chairman, if you give me a few more minutes to study this foreign document, please, 1 second.
You have to.
Let me take a picture of that. Can't leave it alone. If you want to deal with it later, you deal with it later. You prepare them properly. Deal with it later.
Mr. Chairman, you can have the document back.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Ashimorton, you had all these documents that you presented today, right? The seating arrangement, what you call the technical bench, stage plus set and high table and so on. The document talking about the benefits, you had all of them in your custody, right? As at the time that our letter was given to you, didn't you?
Mr. Chairman, are you referring to today?
The documents that you presented today, okay, that are pertinent to the matter. So leave the the award history and so on and so forth. But the documents, that pertain to this particular matter, okay, the benefits package and so on that you have given us today, you had them at the time that we wrote to you asking you to give us documents relating to this matter, didn't you?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So what explains the fact that you did not transmit those documents, to us on that day?
Mr. Chairman, it was my intention to bring the documents here today.
Would anything have been wrong in transmitting them and bringing your copies to explain?
Mr. Chairman, no.
Okay, so look, this is easy to print out there. Easy, very, very easy to print. Between last Tuesday and now, this is very, very easy to print, isn't it?
Mr. Chairman, yes.
So if we were to draw the inference that you didn't give us those documents because you did not have them in your custody, what would be your response? And please, it's a simple question.
It's a wrong inference.
It's a wrong inference, Mr. Chairman.
Council is supplying you answers. This is not a legal question. It's not a legal technical question.
I'm saying that,
right?
It's a wrong inference. I won't say that.
But you hesitated in saying that it will be a wrong inference because I cannot wrap my head around the reason why you did not transmit this to us. And then all of a sudden, there are material differences between what was submitted and then what you are submitting today. Because if you had given this to us earlier, we definitely would have looked at them and would not be asking you these type of questions now. So what explains that?
Mr. Chairman, again, I thought it was important to bring these documents to this committee when I was coming. That is all.
Okay. Now, can we go back to MEF1? And, Mr. Chairman, can I have the original? Okay. I want you to take a look. We're on the signature. All right? So can you take a look at the signature at the back? At the tail end, which you signed in green pen.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So that is your signature.
Mr. Chairman, you stand correct that because it was a copy, I went like this, but it wasn't a signature. But you stand corrected.
No, you stand.
I stand corrected.
Can you explain further? What does that mean?
Because it was a copy, that's why I wrote it in green pen. I wrote copy, and I just crossed back there. But that is not my signature, even though it was my writing.
But it has your name.
That's correct.
So you own that document.
That's correct.
Okay. Let's go back to the first page, because in the original here, you also have the left-hand corner blank, and you gave an explanation to the committee that the reason why that is so is because you have laureates and non-laureates, right? Okay. So why is this committee being treated differently from the Ministry of Trade in this respect?
Mr. Chairman, when I was asked to send a copy of any communication between us and the ministry, I just printed out the letter on our letterhead and send the copy to the committee. But there was no intention of any sort of misappropriation of there was no intention to sort of get the committee thinking differently. I just sent this copy to you.
Is it the practice in your foundation that administratively you don't keep copies of signed documents? Because if you had signed the first one that you sent to the ministry, you would have had a file copy, for future, reference. Is it the practice in your foundation that you don't keep such file copies and that any time the matter comes out, you print and sign?
Mr. Chairman, no. But there are occasions that because the original letter is on the computer, if we needed to print a copy, we would do so, but it is not the standard practice.
So on this occasion, you did not preserve a copy of the original letter that you sent to the ministry?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
You didn't think it was important?
I didn't think it was important at that time.
Yeah, because Mr. Morton, I have here with me, and this is very worrying because, the minister was here, and he tried to present, one document to us, and then we drew his attention to the fact that it was not an original, all right? And the explanation is that this document was presented because they couldn't find the original, all right? Now, if you compare all three, they are signed differently. Moti 6, MEF original letter to Moti is signed differently. The original letter minuted by the minister to the responsible officers is signed differently, and then MEF 1 is signed differently. That is worrying. That is worrying. Because you are writing to public agencies. Why are you using different signatures, signing the content of the same document? That is worrying.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say this. The original letter to the ministry was my signature. The photocopy, the second copy of that letter that I sent to the ministry was also my signature. It's the same signature. The copy that I sent to your commission was a copy. I just didn't sign it properly. It was a copy. I thought we were looking for the communication between ourselves and the ministry, and that's why I sent it to you. But it was all the three emanated from the foundation.
Was this designed, to prove the point that you were the president being referred to and not the president of the republic?
Huh? No, not at all.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, that will be all for now. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ayine. Honorable members, I think we'll take a break for 30 minutes and come back to continue. We still have Dr. Asibe Yeboah, Dr. James Kruje Aveji. The only doctor, non-doctor, is me who will be asking questions when you come back. So in 30 minutes, we'll be back to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The time is 5 minutes after 2, so we come back at 2:35. We are most grateful.
Thank you, sir.